to my parents' home. He was living with my parents as he was studying in university. I met him at the door. I told him I'm a Muslim. He was very happy. But I was very angry. I was upset. I said to him, how? I could have lived with you all of these years and you never said a single word about Islam to me. I had to find Islam on my own, elsewhere.
Ya, setelah saya masuk Islam, saya kemudian berangkat ke Ottawa menemui saudara angkat saya yang tinggal bersama ibu saya. Lalu saya sampaikan kepada beliau bahwa saya telah masuk Islam. Dia gembira, tapi saya marah. Saya marah kepadanya karena kenapa selama saya tinggal bersamanya tidak satu kata pun saya mengenal Islam darinya. Tapi saya harus mengenal Islam dengan cara saya sendiri.
His answer was that he felt shy because my parents had taken him into the family, so he was afraid that if he said something and we became inclined towards Islam or something like that, that it would create disturbance in the family. So he didn't want to be a source of disturbance. But I told him, this is not a good excuse. It may be an excuse, but it is not a good excuse. Because it is the duty of every Muslim to share Islam with those around them, regardless of what is going to happen. Allah knows best. Our responsibility, like that of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is to convey the message of Islam to all of those around us.
Jawaban dia adalah kenapa dia tidak menyampaikan atau mengajarkan Islam. Dia merasa malu karena orang tuanya mengadopsi dia di rumah. Jadi kalau dia menjelaskan Islam kepada saya, dia khawatir akan menimbulkan semacam kekacauan. Dia khawatir kalau saya nanti sebelum kepada Islam, ini akan menimbulkan masalah. Saya akan jadi sumber masalah. Tapi kemudian saya jelaskan itu tidak benar, bahwa seorang muslim mestinya punya tanggung jawab menjelaskan Islam kepada orang lain apapun implikasinya. Ini Allah mengajarkan supaya kita menyampaikan Islam kepada orang lain.
The other point that I think is significant for my story is that when I first came into Islam in Toronto, and Toronto has a mixed community of Muslims. From that time when I accepted Islam, there were Muslims from different parts of the Muslim world. So when I tried to learn Islam with Pakistanis, I got Hanafi Islam. And when I learned with Egyptians, they gave me Shafi'i Islam. And when I learned with Moroccans, they gave me Maliki Islam. Okay? No, nobody said that's what we were giving you. But you can imagine that when I learned first to pray, and the Hanafi said, okay, you put your hands underneath your navel. The Shafi'i said, put it on your chest. The Maliki said, put it by your side. Now, they were saying, well, it doesn't matter, you can do any of them. Okay, that wasn't so bad. But when I learned that according to Shafi'i school, from my Egyptian teachers that if a man accidentally touches a woman, he has no wudu. But from my Hanafi teachers, they taught that if a man accidentally touches a woman, you do have wudu. Your wudu is not broken. Now this was a problem. Because you can either have wudu or not have wudu. You can't be in wudu and out of wudu at the same time. These two can come together. Right? So then, for me to accept that all of the versions of Islam that I was being exposed to were all correct, it meant I had to accept the idea that you could have wudu and not have wudu at the same time.
Poin lain yang perlu saya sampaikan berkenaan dengan masalah madhab. Di Toronto banyak orang Islam datang dari berbagai negara. Jadi campuran, Muslim campuran. Saya pernah belajar dengan orang Pakistan, tapi yang diajarkan adalah Islam versi madhab Hanafi. Dari orang Mesir saya dapatkan Islam versi Syafi'i. Lalu kemudian dari orang-orang Maroko saya diajarkan Islam versi Maliki. Dalam persoalan sholat misalnya, dari Hanafi, kelompok Hanafi menyatakan sholat tangan diletakkan di bawah pusat, sementara Syafi'i juga ada, baru kemudian Maliki agak di samping. Nah ini persoalan-persoalan yang saya hadapi setelah masuk Islam, keragaman madhab. Yang kedua misalnya persoalan menyentuh wanita secara sengaja. Bagi yang berpaham Syafi'i berarti batal, sementara untuk yang berpaham Hanafi tidak batal wudunya. Nah ini saya melihatnya dalam perspektif antara memiliki wudu dengan tidak memiliki wudu bisa ada pada saat yang sama. Kita bagaimana melihat persoalan ini?
So for me, because I had studied in university, I liked reading. I respected knowledge. I felt that I could not depend on learning Islam from the cultures of Muslims. We have today what we can call cultural Islam. That is the Islam found in Muslim cultures around the world. And there are differences from one culture to another. So for me, who doesn't come from a Muslim culture, which one should I adopt? This is the question. If I'm to adopt Indonesian cultural Islam, because I happen to live in Indonesia, but what if I were living instead in Pakistan or India? Then I would have followed Pakistani, Indian cultural Islam. So to choose Islam just based on accident, what we call happenstance, it just happened like that, I felt couldn't be right. This can't be a basis for deciding how to follow Islam.
Saya berada di universitas, jadi saya senang membaca. Lalu kemudian saya berkesimpulan saya tidak bisa belajar Islam bergantung dengan Islam kultural, Islam yang ada di masyarakat Muslim. Persoalannya, kalau Islam kultural yang ada di Pakistan tentu akan beda dengan Islam kultural yang ada di Indonesia. Jadi saya harus mencari Islam bukan berdasarkan Islam kultural, bukan berdasarkan apa yang dipraktikkan oleh Muslim di tempat atau di negara yang berbeda-beda. Karena saya datang bukan dari kultur Islam.
So I decided that I needed to go to the sources of Islam. I needed to learn Arabic, since the original sources are in Arabic, the Quran and the Sunnah are in Arabic. I needed to go and learn these, and I needed to study Islam from those sources. So I applied to study in Medina, in Munawwara, Saudi Arabia. I got accepted. I went there and I began to study Islam from the sources.
Lalu saya memutuskan untuk belajar Islam